Hello. Everyone get a chance to decompress a little bit after that last talk? It was really heavy. Okay, so our next speaker is here all the way from Stockholm. He created Gemba, and he is Yang Meyer.
Hi, everybody. My name is Yang Meyer. And today I want to talk to you about how we as designers and developers can create outstanding products by building mutual trust between each other, by taking joint ownership over the end products that we build, and by using tools that let us work together better. So just to get an idea of who's here in the audience today, raise your hands, one hand, if you're a developer. Okay? Are there any designers here today? Awesome. Now give the developer sitting next to you a high five. Awesome. I've been creating iOS apps for quite a few years now, notably as a developer. But because I'm passionate about user experience, I tend to work very closely with the designers and sometimes even work myself as a UX consultant. And over the past few years, I've worked in many different places with a number of different cross-functional teams, like in New York, Australia, Germany, Indonesia. And now I'm based in Stockholm, where I work at Bond Touch, an agency where we create mobile products and maintain them over years for large companies. And all of these work experience over the past 4 or 5 years had one thing in common. The work relationship between designers and developers was often the most rewarding, the most fruitful. When we got that to work well, magic happened. But at the same time, it was also this work relationship that was often the most challenging to get right. And I think that's in part because our professions, design, development, have developed different cultures with our own languages, jargon, with our own set of tools and the way we think we want to create products. And unfortunately, different cultures tend to breed mistrust. And what mistrust does is that it leads us to work defensively, where we rely on a lot of written communication, where we have a lot of big internal handoffs, like super detailed wireframes or pixel-perfect screen comps. And what I've seen a lot is that many designers hold off sharing their designs with developers until they're done. And often I think that's because we as developers have this tendency to take the first thing we get, even though it's just a sketch, and then run with it. And what designers learn very quickly in working together with developers is that it's often hard to change designs once they're there with the developer. And that's for interactions, and it's also true for assets. Once the developer has something, if you want to nag him again 5 times to get this pixel just right, many developers get kind of again. So this handoff-based development, where we go from one phase to the other, like from interaction design with the wireframes, and then the graphic design, we have these screen comps that show how the app will feel. This way of working, where we go from one phase to the next with these really important big deliverables, is of course what we in software development call waterfall. And that might sound surprising because we're all doing agile development, right? We all do Scrum or some sort of Scrum. And yeah, we are. But if you look beyond just the coding, you'll see many elements that are not so agile at all in the way we work. So this all paints a pretty grim picture of how we work together today, right? It's not all bad. But I think we all agree that there are things that we can do to improve the way we work together. That's why we're all here today. So from the past years, I want to share 3 things that I've learned over the past few years, how we can work together better. The first thing is, I say, sit everyone in the same room, designers, developers. So what this does is it allows you to collaborate continuously. It shouldn't require conscious effort to work together. I shouldn't have to call someone or call a meeting or walk to the next room just to get the creative juices flowing, because that works best when you're physically around each other or very near each other by default. And what this also does is it's much easier to create this palpable sense of we're in the same boat, we're in this together. And I'm not saying remote doesn't work. I've worked remotely and it's worked really fine. But what I've learned is that working remotely works much better once the design has stabilized, once we really know what we're building and it's only about like production. It's just about like getting the pixels done or getting the code done. But that's very, very rarely the case in at least the first half of a project. So remote's possible, but it's so much easier if you're sitting in the same room. It's both designers and developers. 2, foster a working culture that emphasizes everybody's contribution to the end product and de-emphasize tools and internal handoffs that make the end product happen. So tools are just tools. It sounds so obvious, but so many developers pride themselves of using reactive Cocoa or having full test coverage, and designers were really proud about their really neatly organized Photoshop files, or hey, I'm using Sketch, I'm even cooler. Now, mind you, mastering your tool is important in any craft. But it's important to remember that your users don't care what tools you use. So take ownership about what your tools allow you to achieve for your users. Take ownership over the end product. And handoffs are just, sorry, wrong slide. Handoffs are just experiments. Like, try to consider them as small experiments that let you move the end product further along. Like, is this wireframe enough to get the developers started working on the structure of the app? Does this interaction really work in the app itself? And prototypes can be really great to test something. But don't indulge in making them super pretty or perfect, because you can basically waste 3 weeks with getting a Facebook origami prototype just right. Use them as a tool, not as an end in themselves. And remember, sometimes whiteboard sketches are all you need. So what you ultimately want is you want to iterate on the product itself. Cut out unnecessary intermediate deliverables, because what this does is it increases everybody's sense of ownership in the product. So once you have the basic design of your app ready, you'll want to tweak stuff. And try to tweak stuff directly in the app. So for styles, for fonts, colors, one good way of doing that is using libraries like UISS or like a plist-based style sheet. And like from my own experience, it's not hard to roll your own if you don't want to use any of the libraries that exist out there. Or you can use something like Facebook's tweaks, where you can change values, colors in the app itself. Now, of course, iterating on the product and tweaking in the app itself sounds weird to us developers these days, because we're already working on the app. But for many designers, it's like the app is kind of somewhere there with the developers. And once once the designer gets the assets ready and exports everything from his or her Photoshop file, the work is kind of done. And that's really weird. So what you really want to do as a graphic designer is you want to integrate the assets into the app. You want to be working on the app and not for your developer. Problem is integrating assets into where the app is obviously means getting it into the Git repository somehow. And in my experience, most designers really don't want to use Git. And those who do have been forced to do so. And it's easy to see why. Because like this is a list of some of the more popular Git commands. And it's just really a lot. And designers really don't need all of this complexity. All designers want to do is want to add assets, and they want to push the changes to the repository. So I think this really can be better. We can really work together on the product. So what I've done over the past few months is I've created a Mac app called Gemba. And that makes it really enjoyable for graphic designers to basically add assets and push them. This is a feature comparison chart. We all love these, right? And this is how Gemba stacks up to them. There's add assets in the top there. It kind of disappeared. At BondTouch, at the company I work for in Stockholm, we've been using this app for the past few months, and it's been working out really well for us. So let me know if you're interested in the beta, which will be coming out really soon now. So to sum up, to collaborate continuously, sit in the same room, designers and developers, take joint ownership over the end product. And you can do that by iterating on the product itself. Thank you for your time.
We're just going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with our next speaker.
I've been creating iOS apps for quite a few years now, notably as a developer. But because I'm passionate about user experience, I tend to work very closely with the designers and sometimes even work myself as a UX consultant. And over the past few years, I've worked in many different places with a number of different cross-functional teams. Hi, everybody. My name is Meyer. And today I want to talk to you about how we as designers and developers can create outstanding products by building mutual trust between each other, by taking joint ownership over the end products that we build, and by using tools that let us work together better. So just to get an idea of who's here in the audience today, raise your hand, one hand, if you're a developer. Okay? Are there any designers here today? Awesome. Now give the developer sitting next to you a high five. Awesome.
Hello. Everyone get a chance to decompress a little bit after that last talk? It was really heavy. Okay, so our next speaker is here all the way from Stockholm. He created Gemba, and he is Meyer.